Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Marriage Gone Divorce. We're gonna getting started real soon. We're gonna give a little time and allow you guys to come on into the conversation tonight. It's going to be a powerful, dynamic one. And I have noticed that a lot of you are watching after the live, which is good. I hope that you're sharing as well. I haven't looked at those numbers yet, but we want you to share and we want you to leave your comments in the comment section. We want you to be a part of this dynamic conversation that we are having about marriage and divorce. Many of us at some point in time, we have faced it, be it ourselves, be it loved ones, be it family, be it parents. And we have a lot of questions around it. And so we are taking the shame, the guilt, the uncomfortableness around divorce, marriage, where we have gone from this is it, okay, to please get away. Or even if it's not please get away, it's this is just not working, it's not healthy, we're not growing together, and we need to be about making sure that we're healthy for our lives. Yeah, so we want to say welcome, 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 and thank you for joining us. Can you put in the chat where you are checking in from, where you're vibing from? Just let us know where you are from around, if you're in California, New York, New Jersey, wherever you're from. Let us know where you're from in the chat. We greatly appreciate it. And by all means, make sure you share, get the word out, share right now. Let them know that Iris is live and we're getting ready to get this conversation started. Okay. All righty. Appreciate it. Thank you, Derek. Thank you very much. Let's see. All righty. All righty. We're going to go ahead and bring our special guest this evening to the stage. You guys have already seen her, the drum roll. You guys have already seen her when we kicked off the series with two other young ladies, and you've heard her talk. You've heard her talk a little bit about her marriage and her divorce and the process. And she is passionate about sharing her story and informing women and marriage couples that there is another way besides standing in abusive relationships. You don't have to do that. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring her to the stage. Let's see. Y'all, there she is. I'm still getting this.
Hey.
Hey, lady. Hi. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. I cannot complain. Been a busy day, but glad to be here tonight. Glad to be here tonight. Yeah. So, I want to say thank you for gracing the stage of Marriage Gone Divorce. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be with us tonight for a one-on-one interview. And as you know, we're just gonna have a real conversation about your experience, what you've learned, and how to be a support and a blessing to others. And so, with that said, what I would like to say, as you guys know, if you look back at the previous broadcast, I've shared her experience, I've shared her background. She has no. She's been in the community for a while, and she works for LA County. She has her MBA. She's a mother of one daughter. I'm going off my memory, I'm not reading it, but she's very, 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 very solid in the community. What I decided to do, and I kind of shared it in one of the posts that I before we came on to invite people out, is the statistics around marriages. So tonight we're specifically talking about, just so you ladies and gentlemen would know, we're specifically talking about her experience as a pastor's wife, and how she got there, and some things surrounding around that. But I decided to look at some stats to see how our marriages are faring in the Christian world. And I was quite surprised. Actually, maybe I wasn't. Maybe I wasn't, or maybe I was. But I think some of the numbers, I was definitely surprised. I was surprised, particularly as it pertains to pastors' marriages. 50% of all pastor marriages, and this was recent data, I think 2022, I got to go back and confirm that, but recent data says 50% of all pastors' marriages end in divorce. 70% of pastors continually battle depression. 80%, um, and 85% of their spouses, 80 to 85% of their spouses feel discouraged and unappreciated. And then the numbers around abuse were allowed a little shocking. It was up. They said the numbers are actually up. I don't know if it was because of pandemic. I wasn't able because I decided to look kind of late this evening, so I would have to do a little more digging to find that up. But the number was up 70%. And so, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk abuse, we're not talking only physical abuse. We're talking mental, emotional. What am I leaving out? Financial. We're talking, those are it's all under the canopy of abuse. Many times when we say abuse, we're thinking strictly physical, but there's emotional, mental, spiritual, financial abuse that is seeming to hang around. And no one really wants to talk about it because we have a tendency to not want to talk about it. One of the things that Khalilah said in one of our in our previous sit downs is that we are raised pretty much what happens in this house stays in this house, and we keep our mouth closed and we don't talk about what's going on. There is the statistics around PK kids are probably some of the most unhealthy children because they see what goes on in the church and then they see what's going on at home and they really don't want to have no part of this thing called church. So in a lot of instances, not all. So mind you, what I'm saying, I'm not saying it's all, I'm saying it's some. So I kind of set the stage to kind of let you know that there is an issue going on. There's a challenge going on in our churches, and when I say churches, I'm talking Christian world. And so when it talks Christian, Protestants, Catholicism, all of it, evangelical, it's all under the umbrella, in case you didn't know, of Christian. Okay, so you got your Baptist, you got your Methodist, you got your Pentecostal, you got your Apostolic, and that's all under the umbrella of being a Christian. So with that said, I want to say welcome again, Khalilah, and I want to ask you, based on what you just heard me share about the stats, and oh, I didn't even mention second and third marriages. I didn't even mention the stats around that. The numbers just skyrocket from there. What would you like to kind of start off with sharing with the audience with your experience?
Oh, well, going to the stats, I'll go to that. I wasn't surprised. I think that just more and more people are starting to become educated about abuse and unhealthy patterns and declining to stay and participate. And so, I think a lot of people also, unfortunately, are turning away from some of the things that we've been taught in church because we're realizing a lot of it is manipulation of the scripture and of what they say is the word of God. And so staying in marriages because you've been told God hates divorce is no longer really keeping people in marriages. So I'm not really surprised about the number of divorces amongst pastors. And unfortunately, it's probably something that will probably continue. I will say, I think that some of them, I'm going to speak about my situation. Um, some pastors, particularly the one that I married, they look for a certain type that they think will stay and tolerate. certain behaviors. He is a predator. I will say that in every sense of the word. He's a predator. And a lot of people say he studied you. And I'm very nice. And I'm very, I'm just a really kind person. And I think my mother, so let me say that my stepdad was a pastor. I was raised by a pastor.
Let me say this to you. That's what I was going to say, ask you, because I want to add this layer to it. And I want to also add the layer. First, I want to add the layer that your bonus dad, well, I say bonus dad.
Yeah,
I
bonus
guess, so
dad. That
yeah,
was my dad.
yeah, that
Actually,
was, yeah,
a
yeah, he
biological
was,
dad that I love as
mhm,
well. But my
mhm,
stepdad, I called him my dad. Some people didn't
yeah,
even know that he was my stepdad. They
exactly.
thought he was my dad. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I completely thoroughly understand because my daddy was
Mhm.
was the same, and I call him
Mhm.
daddy. He was dad. That's all I knew.
Right.
Hi there, thank you, welcome.
Mhm.
And so, with that said, what I will say is your bonus dad was a pastor, so
Mhm.
you was very familiar with pastoralship, ministry,
Mhm.
first lady, protocol, and all of that. But before we go there, you also have a daughter and you were
I did.
married prior,
Correct.
correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Before we get to that, how long were you married prior to, and tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so I married my daughter's father. We started dating when I was in high school. And so one of those things, first love, young love. We stayed together for probably about 14 years. We were married probably 5, but we stayed together for 14 years, I believe, somewhere around there. And from that relationship, I have my beautiful daughter. So yeah, we're talking about divorce. So that marriage ended because, and we are cool. We don't have any beef with each other. But the truth of the matter is, he had a baby by somebody else while we were married. He got the side chick, mistress, whatever you want to call her, pregnant, and I'm just not the one. So I
Right.
was like, you know what? We can't continue because and this is the thing. I joke a little bit, but
Mhm.
in all sincerity, there are some women who stay. Their husbands have children outside of their marriage, and I don't have any judgment for them. The real truth for me, I didn't think that I could accept another child outside of my marriage or love that child the way that it deserved. So
Mhm.
I stepped out of the way
Mhm.
because I didn't want to mistreat a child. And I was
Mhm.
like, I'm not in the position, my heart posture will not allow me to treat this baby the way that it should be treated. So I'm going to end the marriage. And that's
And
what
so,
happened.
just so, and you know what, Khalilah, just so you know, marital infidelity is the number one cause of divorce, and
Mhm.
and the statistics shows that. So, you guys, statistics shows, some people tell you it's money. Maybe it used to be, but it's not money. It's infidelity, marital infidelity. And the thing about it, it says that depending on the situations and for each couple is different. So that's you fell right in the stats. No.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, there have been infidelity, and I stayed through the infidelity. The child was where I drew the line.
Mhm.
This wasn't gonna work for me. So, yeah,
Okay.
that was the first marriage. And he went on to have other kids with that young lady, and it's all good.
Mhm.
I got my beautiful daughter, and to this day, like I said, now we are fine when we have to see each other for our daughter. It's no beef. That wasn't for me. And
Right.
so, God allowed it to happen.
Mhm.
And, you know,
So
I'm
you waited some time.
a
Be-
long time to get remarried. We probably divorced in 2009. Yeah, we got married in 2004. We divorced in 2009. I got married again in 2020. So 11 years later.
Yeah, that's a nice little stretch there. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had taken some time with yourself. You kind of had built your life, had done
Mhm.
some things. You had established, a security for you and your daughter.
Mhm.
And but you had not been married. I assume you have been dating,
Yeah.
but it wasn't didn't click. That wasn't it for whatever
Mhm.
reasons. But this man grabbed your attention.
Um, well, I'll say that we knew a lot of the same people. Again, because my stepdad had been a pastor, I have been in the Baptist church my whole life. So I know, just in passing and some more personally, but I know a lot of pastors. A lot of pastors know me also because of my work. I also had interactions with pastors. My pastor at the time, uh, is still the president of the California State Baptist Convention. So
Okay.
being active, in the state Baptist convention and just at my church with a pastor who leads pastors over the state of California, I knew a lot of pastors. I was exposed to a lot of pastors. And so I just saw him a lot and he approached me a couple times and I really wasn't interested. And we used to joke about it. So it's not a secret. I really wasn't interested, but he was pretty persistent. And we ended up going on a date. And of course, one date turned to two to three and so on from there. Yeah.
And
Um,
after how many months did you get? Were you married?
um, maybe it wasn't a long time.
Mhm.
Probably about, I was gonna say, oh, it was maybe about a year and a month or something like that. It wasn't that long at all.
Mhm. So let me ask you this. One of the things that came up in our previous dialogue, you said that, and I thought about this later. You said that we call it love bombing, or he wined and dined you with the best and the finest, and gave you flowers every week, and that you had one person that said to you, "That's not normal," in terms of how he was pursuing you. Looking back at it, because one of the things we wanted to talk about, we want to make sure we include in this discussion. Looking back at that, do you? So I take it that you didn't listen to him when he said that. When he said that's not what men normally do. Would you have listened differently, or did I get it correctly? Hmm.
Okay, so my friend told me after everything happened. Nobody said anything when it was happening.
Oh,
So I'll give a
got
little
it.
context to it. Yeah. So when after we went on probably like 2 dates, he asked me for the address to my job. And I gave it to him. I figured he would send me something. But what happened, he sent me flowers to my job after I gave him the address. It was a Monday. I got this beautiful arrangement. The next Monday, I got another one. And then I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, don't start nothing. You're not going to keep going. And he
Right.
was like, no problem. I got flowers delivered to me every single Monday. He never missed a week. Beautiful arrangements every single week. So no, my coworkers were like, "Oh my God, does he have a brother, girl? He crazy about you, girl. He love you. That's so sweet." My mom knew. She thought it was the sweetest thing. Um, I'm trying to think. My dad knew. My dad knew. Nobody really said that it was strange. My friend, who she told me that afterwards that she would go home and tell her husband, we work together. So these are people seeing the flowers every week. And she started telling her husband, and her husband said, men don't really do that. Like it's something up with that. But she did not tell me anything until afterwards.
So one of the things, audience, listening audience, and and it's a catch-22. I do get, because sometimes our friends will listen and sometimes they won't.
Mhm.
But the thing about it is, if at least you say something in a way that it will cause someone to kind of like observe maybe a little differently, or see something a little differently, that might make a difference, right?
Yeah, I don't, and I'm just gonna say it. The label doesn't matter to me, but I know that what I experienced was a narcissist. I know that, but at that time, I don't think that people were talking about it in the way that we hear people talking about it now. So I don't know if anybody really knew. To everybody around me, it seemed like the sweetest thing. We ended up later going into marriage counseling. Even the marriage counselors knew. Nobody said, not one person said, it seems like he's love bombing you. What I thought he told me in the beginning, this is another thing, since we're talking about love bombing, and I do want to help people and give a little bit of information. From the first date, I believe the first date, if not the first, definitely by the second, he said, I'm going to marry you. God showed you to me. And I had a friend that this recently happened to. If somebody is telling you that on the first or second date and they don't even know you, but this is where the manipulation comes, because again, you're raised in church and they say, God says, he said, God showed you to me. And I'm going to be 100% honest. He's a pastor. My stepdad was not what I believe a lot of pastors are. I'm sorry. There's a book called When Narcissism Comes to Church, and it talks about actually a lot of pastors are narcissists. And I'm not dissing pastors because I have love for some pastors. I've known pastors my whole life, as I said. So there are some that I love like family. And so I'm not disparaging pastors, but there is research that shows that narcissism is common amongst pastors. So I didn't know that. So when I had him telling me God showed you to me, I didn't have a reason at the time to believe that he was lying. I wouldn't even think that a man of God would lie on God and say something like that. But he did. He said, God showed you to me and I'm going to marry you. You're my wife. And so he was very intentional. I was very um hesitant, and he was like, "Oh, it's fine. I'm going to show you." And so I took it as he was showing me. He was serious, he was intentional. He was everything he said that he was going to do, he was doing. And so I didn't see it as a red flag. I actually saw all those things as green flags. Like, "Oh, wow, he's really serious about this."
Let me just say this too, to the audience. She's talking specifically about her experience with a pastor, a man of the cloth. But let me just tell you that this is something you can pay attention to across the board. I'm sure all of us can probably at some point in time look back and think back. Wow, I've had a man tell me that on the first or second date that that I was their wife, because, and you ask them how, they know, and they'll say either God told them or they just know, just because you're everything that they hoped and wished for. Okay, so just want to throw that in there. Keep going.
Yeah, so that was the first, what should have been a red flag to me. But sometimes too, as women, it feels good for somebody
Yes,
to
it
pursue you
does.
in that way. And
Yes.
it was something like, it felt like, wow, nobody has ever,
Never done that before.
and you get caught
It's
up in that.
refreshing. You get caught up in it.
Mhm.
And we remember when we talk about, and I hope people are listening with open hearts, mind, and ears. When you talk about, what we believe, our faith, the tenets of our faith, and one of the things we believe is that when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing, and then the woman sanctifies the husband. And
Mhm.
then we got the Proverbs 31 woman. Not to any of that stuff. We're not saying any of that stuff is wrong. That's not what we're saying. However, what we are saying is we have a tendency to ignore things, right? When we're in that, we don't question it, because we also have to have faith, right? We got to believe. So we don't question things, and we ignore signals and signs. Go ahead. I see you. You got something you want to say.
Well, too, yeah, everything you said, but it was also for me too. He was familiar.
Mm,
He was familiar to me. I didn't think he was a stranger. Like I said, we knew a lot of the same people. And then, because one thing, like, just as you were talking and I was listening, and I kind of had this thought too. Another reason why I didn't question it, because I felt like I deserved this. And
yeah.
as women, we do. We deserve to be loved. We deserve a man that's intentional about us. So it was like, yeah, why not? Like, this is Like
Yes.
I deserve this, you know? And I don't want to make people feel like if someone is treating you that way, because the way he was treating me was amazing, and
Yes.
I should be treated that way. We should be treated that way, but it just wasn't real. And I know that um it relationships take time. I
Mhm.
know that now. So even if someone, you know, tells you how they feel that early on, you really don't know. I think one of the signs of a person that is narcissistic, abusive, that does not have pure intentions is speed. So they rushing you into the relationship, starting right off with "I want to marry you." They're giving you all these things. It's probably because they trying to get you to fall in love quick, so
They don't
that
want
you
you to pay
don't see
attention.
who they are, and that's kind of what happened. Knowing I deserved it, but I do, but I didn't slow things down, and I should have. He felt familiar, and like I said, by my stepdad
Good.
being a pastor and actually
Yes.
treating my mother like the queen
Yes.
she is,
Yeah.
I never suspected. And so sometimes we're a little naive, and you know,
That's
that's
real talk.
yeah.
That's genuine real talk. That's nobody, and it falls right in line. I was thinking, no, which is how I started the conversation. We don't get married to get divorced. We get married because we want to be married and we are in love. At least we
Right.
think we're in love, and it feels good. It feels
Mhm.
right. But one of the things you did say was you was like, mm-mm, or you wasn't really giving him. You wasn't looking at him like that. And I think about, I know it myself, and then I'm gonna let you go back to your. I know it myself. I think about my initial response was, mm-mm, but they kept talking, and we kept talking. And one of my love languages, and most women, is talking to us,
Mhm.
feeding, giving us that. That's all we need to hear. So you're absolutely right. It's not all bad, and we deserve to be treated and honored and respected and loved.
Yeah.
But it went to a hard turn. You got married.
Uh-huh.
She said, uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm like, are you gonna ask me a question? You just want me to talk? What are we doing?
Yeah, no, you can. I'm just kind of guiding it because
Mhm.
yeah, just guiding the conversation along. But I want you to talk. Yeah, so you continue.
Okay, okay. So, well, let me tell you, because I did it, like you said, we kept talking and talking and talking. I'm gonna tell y'all how he won me over. This was the ultimate love bomb, okay? And so he said, I'm gonna go on this vacation, and this is because I just it's the church piece, because he was like, my church is sending me on vacation. Now I was in the wrong too. I wasn't really thinking about it. I Like I said, everything was feeling good. He was like, my church is sending me on a vacation and I want you to go. And I was like, okay, well, where you want to go? He was like, wherever you want to go. I said, okay. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not even really for sure if he's, serious, to be honest. So I said, well, do you have a passport? Because I like passport stamps. He was like, no, but I'll get one. Ran and got a passport, gave me his credit card, and said, book the trip. I was like, what days? Whatever days you want. I have this credit card. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, what's the budget? Stop asking me all these questions and book the trip. So we went on a trip, and I was like, oh, this is the man for me. So they will do anything, like anything, to get you. Okay. So that's I'm just the background of the love bombing.
Mhm.
So we get married, and we purchase a home together. I have been looking at homes as a single woman, preparing to purchase a home, but we purchased the home together. We're in the home. A lot of little things are happening, but we just gonna go right to the turn. So I do have a daughter at the time. She was probably 24. Um, Most of my daughter's friends I've known their whole life. So there was a young lady who came to spend the night in our home. My daughter asked me if it was okay. I asked him. He said yes. So They're going to Las Vegas, so she was going to be in our home for 2 nights, spending the night heading up to this trip they were taking. So she spends the night the first night. The next day, I'm getting ready to leave for work, and my daughter comes and says, "I need to talk to you. I can see that there is a problem." My daughter looks like she is in a panic, total disarray from head to toe. And I'm going to work and I'm just like, "Oh my God, like what I knew something was wrong." And so she's like, "I need to talk to you." I told her I'm going to go to work. I will be back. I'm going to leave work early, but I had to go in. So long story short, I come home and find out that he has given her friend $300 cash in her home and propositioned her for sex. She had been online on a site, OnlyFans. He had been following her for months. He knew she was my daughter's friend. He had been asking to meet up with her, asking to have sex with her for months. And when she got in our house, he just lost his mind. It's like, she right here. I got to give this one more try. Maybe if I proposition her with cash, she will have sex with me. And instead, thank God and thank her, she told. I believe that he thought she was young and vulnerable and would take the money and be quiet and maybe even have sex with her. He promised her more to come. Like, I have money, I will spoil you, I will take care of you. And he told her, I know, I know your friend. This is because at first he was under like a fake profile. So
Mhm.
she just kept saying, "I need to know that I can trust you," and things of that nature. So that's what happened. They were both, her and my daughter were crying. They were apologizing to me. And I'm like, "Why are you apologizing to me? I'm sorry that this happened to you in my home. I am so sorry." Because she had spent the night at my house before with my daughter. They grew up together. So I was concerned first and foremost about their safety. I got them out of the house and into a hotel. And so where are we going now?
So let me ask you
what
this.
happened. That's
Yeah,
what the pastor did.
that's what. So as you guys see, this story is how things are has escalated. Now, what I will say is there are receipts, and
Oh.
I have seen the receipts, and you can see the receipts. What is it on the what is the young? I'll put it
TikTok,
in the
nosy bystander.
nosy
Nosy bystander.
bystander.
She
Um,
also did, I don't know if you saw it, but she also jumped on TikTok because it was so, I mean, on YouTube because it was so many receipts, and TikTok only lets you go for so long. Narisa Tisa did about 50 of them. At that time, we didn't know. So she jumped off of TikTok. She did 3 short videos. She got on YouTube and probably went for another hour because there were so many receipts. So
yeah.
if you probably Google
Yes.
him, the video, the YouTube video comes up,
The
and she
YouTube
talks
comes
about it
up
in more
and the
detail.
TikTok comes up. And so what I will say is you can subscribe to our Patreon
Okay, yeah.
if you would like to get more information on, in terms of receipt. So we're not just talking out the side of our neck, and we are intentionally not using the name because we don't want to give more life. However, I don't know if that's good, bad, because when you're dealing with someone, and I'm going to give her a chance to talk about narcissism and what is a narcissist and the distinction of someone having narcissistic qualities and then being a narcissist. It's two different: clinical narcissism, and then there's narcissist qualities. And because all of us may have a little bit of narcissism, but we're not narcissists, which is two different things. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later. So yes, so our Patreon is Iris Inspires. And so we will put the videos and the
Put
receipts
whatever you want
there.
in there. If you want
We'll
some
put them
more,
in there versus
I'll
um
add to it before I take it back. So whatever you need in Patreon.
it is definitely there. And what I did, just out of wanting to make sure, and I didn't have any doubt, let me just be real clear, I had no doubt that what she was saying was the truth. But what I will say is, when I did my due diligence, my mouth kind of dropped, because I did realize that like I told you, many of you guys know that I grew up in church.
Mhm.
I have pastors and evangelists and ministers and etc. in my family. I am an elder and a minister ordained at a young age. So I'm very conscientious of, information that's put out, but I was really surprised as well as some of the crossing of people that we know, and all the way to the fact that this individual was on a women's panel. Um,
Mhm.
it was really surprising. I was actually very surprised to know that, and to know that the history, there is a, not just with her, there's a track record, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
yeah. So with that said, so you can go to our, make sure you subscribe to our Patreon at Iris Inspires. Iris Inspires. All right, let's get back to you, my lady. So so this may be triggering for some, by the way. So, if you need to take a break and come back to it, completely understand. Again, we are sharing this so you are aware. And so you can be armored to pay attention, if nothing more than to pay attention.
Mhm.
And what I will say with Khalilah, even when I heard her story and I listened to her story, how she initially, I'm going to say this to you, Khalilah, how
Mhm.
you initially, um, how you initially responded was not abnormal. That's what
Mhm.
we are taught to do.
Mhm.
We're taught to act like nothing happened and move it right along. So with
Mhm.
that said, I'm going to allow you go ahead and continue. You can go into the direction you want, because I know there's layers. There's
Mhm.
a lot of layers. So mhm.
Okay, yeah. So I
let
like
me
you
let me
said.
ask you this though. Let me ask you this. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You
Oh, fine.
mentioned counseling, and you said you did premarital counseling.
Correct. So we never left counseling. We did do premarital counseling with a wonderful couple that I love and I still speak to them to this day. Um Once we got married, there were problems like right from the beginning. So when by the time this happened, we already had a session scheduled anyway, because it just like it was crazy from the time we said I do. So what I'll say is, and I know we don't have a whole lot of time. So I'll say after it happened, I did act like, I got the girls out of the house. I asked him if it happened. He said it did not. He actually flipped it around on me and said it was my fault because I
That's
brought this
not
girl into the house. I need to be careful who I bring into our house. So it was a whole lot of foolishness. So the lying, again, we talking about a pastor. So you sexually harassed my daughter's friend, solicited her for sex in the house, and now it's my fault. All signs of narcissism, no remorse whatsoever. It's my fault. Okay. It's my fault. This is what he said to me.
Mhm.
So I said, okay. So it was still working hours. So I just went and got on the computer and I started working. And I'm going to cut through a lot of this because I want to get to some of the things that happened during the divorce because I think that's important for especially for women too. So
Mhm.
I had to show him the receipts because again she had been on OnlyFans, so he had been messaging her. So before I got them out of the house into a hotel, I asked her if she had the messages. She said yes. I said, can you send them to me? She sent me every single message. So when Iris talks about receipts, those are the receipts. I asked her for the messages and she shared them with me. So to this day, I have every single, well, the messages that she shared with me. I have those. And so I told him that I had the messages because he continued to say that it wasn't true. And I said, I have the messages. And finally he said, let me see them first before he would admit. I let him see that I had the messages. He was like, oh, these messages look fake. Still lying. The messages are not fake. I'm not going to play these games with you. The messages are not fake. So once he saw that I was not buying that, he finally said, okay, it's true. Of course it's true. And so I told him at that point, stay away from me. We have a session on Saturday. This is Thursday. So the best thing for you to do is to stay away from me until we get with the counselors on Saturday. So I said nothing else to him weekend, and I mean, until that Saturday morning in counseling, he again, no apology, no accountability. He was mad at me for not wanting to speak to him. What are we going to talk about? So he was upset. So when we got to counseling, he did admit it to the counselors. And I'll just fast forward a lot, but one of the other signs of narcissism is no empathy. I was hurt. Not only was I hurt, my daughter was hurt. You embarrassed her. You humiliated her. You tried to have sex with her friend. This is her stepfather trying to have sex with her friend. Her friend should have been safe in our house, and she was not. He was never sorry. In counseling on multiple occasions, he said, um, I said I was sorry. Like, I was supposed to get over it just like that. And so was my daughter. And he said, I'm not going to let you make me feel bad about this. I don't feel any shame about it. That's a narcissistic person who can hurt another person and have no empathy, no remorse, who can, oh, he started using the Bible. If you ever look at the Nosy Bystanders video, he was using the scripture on me. I can't even tell you all of it, but he was telling me that Satan was using me to destroy our marriage. Satan using me. Okay. That's what he said.
Mhm.
He said that I was married to my daughter and I was letting my daughter control my emotions. And until I submitted to him, he kept throwing out the word submit. I needed to submit to him no matter what. All of those things, all of those things. Just again, like the lying, the manipulation. He was very controlling. He wanted to. One of the main things abusers do is they want to isolate you. And so this to me is really serious, and I think people need to pay more attention to it. I know now, and I kind of knew then, but I know for a fact what he was doing was to divide me and my daughter. My
Mhm.
daughter was 24 years old. He was trying to make her leave our home so that it would have just been me and him in the home, and then he would have really tore me up. But they hate whatever you love, they hate. He knows it had been me and my daughter for so long. He knows I love my daughter. He wanted to hurt my daughter, and in turn, by hurting my daughter, he was hurting me. He was trying to divide us because I was trying to work on the marriage. So he wanted my daughter to feel like, even though I hurt you, your mom is still choosing me. She's choosing me over you. All
Mhm.
of those things. That's not, a normal person wouldn't do that. A,
Mhm.
a regular person, and then you call yourself a man of God. What? That's not what godly. What's godly about that? Any of it.
Right. Yeah.
So I can keep talking, or you want to ask me something?
Well, no, what
Mm,
I know it's a really and it's probably unfair to you to not be able to go into all of it. But what I would
mhm,
like to ask you is, what was the straw that broke the camel's back for you to go ahead and file for the divorce? Because there are, like I say to the audience, there's a lot of layers, and I'm sure based on what has been said. This is not everybody's story, but this is a few stories, and that has been said that you can identify with the trauma, with the abuse, the emotional abuse, with the gaslighting, with the
mhm,
flip. When you flip the script, you the one. You ain't praying enough. You the devil. No,
mhm. Oh
and
yeah,
not taking
I was
real.
called the devil a lot. I
Yeah,
was
you're
called the
not
devil a lot.
taking it. So, what was the straw that broke the camel's back, and then you can go ahead and we can get into the divorce part of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's actually it's, I don't know why I won't say it's embarrassing, but it was at the time. Um because we had been in counseling, and once you start this cycle of abuse, it's hard to break. Even though you know it's bad for you, they call it a trauma bond. Thank God I didn't get locked into it, but what happened was, and I'll have the receipts for this too. We were in counseling. It's hard. It was hard, y'all, but I was trying to make it work. And I found him on a swinger site looking for other couples to have sex with. And I was devastated. Like, you just still doing stuff after all of that. It's only been maybe 6 months since the incident with my daughter's friend. I find him on a site looking for people to have sex with. And I told the marriage counselor, and the marriage counselor, I'll say she was very committed to helping us stay together. She was determined to keep us together. And I appreciate it. That was her job. That's what we were paying her to do, to help us stay together. But when I told her about the swinging site, it was a husband and a wife, but I would have sessions one-on-one with the wife. When I told her about the swinging site, she said, I think he might be a narcissist. That was my first time ever hearing the term. I didn't know what it was. And I was like, okay, well, that sounds like he has a mental health issue. It's a sickness, right? In the vows you say sickness and in health, in sickness and in health. So I said I wouldn't leave him if he had cancer. I'm not going to leave him because of this mental illness that you're telling me about, because I didn't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And the look on her face when I said that I would stay with him, she looked like, I can't explain it, but it was so much concern on her face. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I never saw her look that way before. So I was like, okay, this is bad. And I kind of got frustrated with her. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
seems like you're giving up. You've been saying you were going to help us stay together. Like, what is the problem? I don't know why you, now I'm mad because you didn't tell me like you going to help us stay together, and I'm committed to it. And now it's looking like you're giving up. And she said, look, if you want to stay with him, I will be here with you. She said, but I'm telling you, what you have experienced, this is going to be the rest of your life. She said, you're going to have extreme highs and extreme lows.
Mm-hmm.
And so if this is what you want, I will try to walk you through it. But I just want you to know this is going to be the rest of your life. And when we got off the call, I was like, wow. And I just seen, like I said, the concern on her. And I was like, can I live like this the rest of my life? This is horrible. And I started researching, and I discovered what narcissism was. And I was like, I can't. I can't. So that was what made me decide. And what I know, there's a whole bunch of definitions and descriptions. I'm gonna just tell you what I believe it is. Narcissist, I was called the devil a lot. Clearly, he was the one doing all the wrong. Not that I was perfect, but we weren't even married that long. I don't know how long I could have been, the wife that I was, but I was trying to be the best wife that I could be. Everything that happened, he did it. He did it. And so what I believe narcissists to be are devils, walking, talking, breathing devils. That's what I believe. The devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And when I tell you that's what that man tried to do to me, that's what he tried to do to me. And the Bible talks about it. I said it before, and I will continue saying it. Our adversary, the devil, is going to and fro, seeking whom he may devour. That man was trying to devour me, and he said it in the end. I one thing too, I said it, and I want to continue to say, growing up in church, I always heard we are all God's children. That's not true. That's not true. You have to read the Bible for yourself. I think it's John 8:44. It says that you are just like your father, the devil, the father of lies. So just like God has children, Satan has children too. And so I believe that that's what narcissists are. Yes, right here. It is 8:44. For you are the children of your father, the devil, and you love to do the evil things he does.
Wow.
That's straight from the Bible. That's what a narcissist is. That's what I believe. And I'm just gonna be honest. And I don't know how many people will see this. I know he's loved by people. He is a devil. That's just the truth. He's a devil. And there are like, you see them every day. When you turn on the news and you see all the things that are going on, you think those are God's children doing some of these things, murdering people, killing babies, all of this stuff. The devil has children, and some of them are in the pulpit. A lot of them are in the pulpit. The Bible talks about false teachers too. He talks about false teachers. All none of it is new, but when you don't read the Bible for yourself and you let other people tell you what the Word of God says, you might miss out on some of these things. The Bible talks about He sends us out as sheep among wolves. It's a lot of wolves out here, and they're in the pulpit. So,
So let me ask you this. You said a mouthful, my lady.
I did.
You said a mouthful, my lady. There is a clinical definition of narcissism,
Mhm,
and it usually is connected to some form of abandonment. It starts and it's kind of morphed into some form of abandonment
mhm,
um, as a child, and it's how they've learned to survive and live. And as they become adults, everything is centered and around about them,
mhm,
and so they have no empathy and they are very manipulative. They know how they pay attention to you,
mhm,
um,
mhm,
and they have a knack for even making their families feel guilty for everything, and so they don't speak up and say anything. And so this is how especially. Unfortunately, mothers, fathers, a lot of times they mimic the father or lack of father figure or lack of father is so I'm kind of giving an overgeneral um, uh, definition from a clinical standpoint of what narcissism is. I hadn't taken into consideration the John 8:44
Oh, I
says what it says. So she kind of just brought it on home. And I think one of the things we have to, I would like to say, I just in listening to you talk, and I say this often, particularly for Black men, white men too, but white men is the, ooh, do I want to do that? No. But the institution of of the Christian world in America um, is designed to manipulate and control. It wants to
mhm.
have non-thinking people,
Oh, absolutely.
and so which is a complete opposite of what Jesus Christ came to the earth to do. He came to the earth to show us who we are and our power. Yes.
And I want to say it really is. And it's this scripture that people love to say and they misuse it. It's a lot of misuse, misquoting, and abuse. People say, touch not my anointed.
That.
And so you're always afraid to say
Yes.
something about a
Yes.
pastor. Let me tell you something. Who is
Yes.
the anointed? The
Yes.
person with the title? Because the title don't mean
You're
that you're
anointed.
the anointed. Who's to say I'm not the anointed? And he touched me and he gonna pay for that. And he touched my daughter and he touched my daughter's friend. And that he anointed because of a title. People need to stop like that right there. That touch not my anointing has people afraid to say anything about a leader, right or wrong.
And
No,
staying, they
yeah.
not only are they afraid, they're staying in congregations. We see at an all-time high in our world right now. I don't know if it's because of social media or what it is, but
Mhm.
we is right front and center. Some would say it's end time, this time, or whatever the time is, but it is front and center that there is a lot um, of our leaders. I've read stories where, pastors were convicted for child molestation
Yes.
and the
And the church still love them. The
and
church
bringing
put
the
money on
children in
their
the
book.
church. It is so that is it, so that is showing that there is something going
They've
on with our,
been manipulated. They've
yeah.
been manipulated. And the pastors get up and they because let me out and I know we need to wrap up, but they'll say, like he was telling people I was crazy, I was mentally ill. So that's why one of the reasons, there were several, that I sat down and did a live so that people could see that I'm in my right mind. I know what I'm saying. I'm not crazy. And too many people knew me though. We knew too many of the same people. Nobody was going to buy that. So then it started being, he's under attack. He's under attack. The enemy likes to attack.
Spiritual
What?
warfare.
What? Come on now. Come on now. And people though, because they see this person for who they see them as, they they know they know I can control these people. They've been controlling and manipulating for years.
Well,
And
we're rocked
so
to
and
sleep. We're rocked to sleep. I've been listening to, and I highly recommend for you guys. And I want you to talk about the divorce after this. I highly,
okay.
highly, highly recommend you guys read Napoleon Hill's. Um, why did I just go blank? Conversation. What is it called?
I'm like, I'll look it up for you.
Yeah, it's called. It's an outwitting the devil. That's what it's called.
Oh,
Napoleon Hill's outwitting the devil. Let me just tell you something. I know you hear the title and you're like, what kind of book could that be? I highly recommend that everyone under the sound of my voice, whoever he is, I highly recommend you read that book or listen to it on Audible. It's an excellent book because what has happened is we have truly forgotten who we are, which
hmm
is why we can be
hmm
so manipulated um, and fooled. And then when we question, we're chastised for questioning because we're not supposed to question, you
hmm
know. And so, and then we're not supposed to trust. The other part of it, we kind of talked about it, and it was alluded to even in this conversation. We don't trust ourselves, even when we say we're filled of the Holy Spirit. We don't trust that, but we say we trust God, but we don't trust. But the scripture clearly tells us if we're filled of the Holy Spirit, that we can trust that the Holy Spirit will guide us. But we don't trust it because we've been taught not to trust. We've been trusting, all of those things. And then, like you said, we definitely don't trust. We definitely don't question the leader, the pastor. It's in the media right now today, everybody. And it's high time. One of the reasons we're doing this is not to advocate marriage or divorce or marriage, but it is to advocate that you are worthy of nothing short of the best of what God has for you. And
Yeah.
if you have come to terms with the fact that a marriage is not healthy, that is toxic, that you've been dealing with a narcissist, I don't care who he is and where he came from, that you don't have to sit in there and take that abuse. You don't have to, you don't have control over another human being's will, meaning that you can't pray. You can
Mhm.
pray that they will change, but you can't change it, and you ain't got to stay there to be
Mm-mm.
to be abused by it. So with that said, so after all of this has happened and you've come to the conclusion that so she's prayed, she's fast, she sought counsel, she stayed, she tried, and then she comes to the conclusion that, hey, this is not going to work and I have to get out, so I'm filing for divorce.
Yeah, so I filed for the divorce. It was a hard decision. And he did not want it because he was a pastor. This was his second marriage too, and this was a very short marriage, about a year and 4 months. So he, of course, there were attempts to reconcile. We only stayed married a year and 4 months. I want to say that, but there were, even after I made the decision, there were some attempts to reconcile, and I kind of went back a little bit, but um once I finally said, this is it, I'm done. What he decided to do, we had purchased the home together. I just wanted a divorce. I was able and willing to buy him out of the home or sell the home. That was the only business we had. I had no attorney. I'm just filing the divorce. He said, no way. Uh, he hired an attorney. He hired an attorney. I did not have one. When I got his response back to the divorce, he wanted spousal support and he wanted me to pay for his attorney. And he refused to leave the home. He refused to agree to being bought out. He refused to agree to put the house on the market. So I was devastated because I'm like, you tried to sleep with my daughter's friend. You're on the swingers website. Those are the two biggest issues. There were a whole bunch of other issues that we would never be able to talk about all of them, but there was a lot of mental, emotional abuse. I did a live video and I played a, a, a recording from a night of me with him. just verbally abusing me, refusing to even let me sleep. Um, it was a lot. So I would think that a person having done all those things would just agree to the divorce and part ways. No. And that this is why I know he's a narcissist, he's a demon. You did all those things and now you want me to pay you spousal support. The problem was he's a pastor, so that he makes a lot of money because he's also the president of a organization, a minister's organization in the city. They raise minimum $60,000 a year just in that position, but it's cash. So he wants spousal support. He wants me to pay for his attorney, and he's refusing to agree on anything in the house. So I want to say, I had to get an attorney. I spent over $40,000 in attorney fees. The judge, after 2 years, finally ordered the house on the market, and we were able to sell it, but it took a judge and a lot of money to do that. He did lose in his request for spousal support because he was lying. There was never a need. And the judge flat out asked him to explain his need for spousal support. And what he said was, well, she makes this. She said, I didn't ask you what she makes because she
Mhm.
saw what I made. She said, what's your need? He didn't have a need. And so he lied. The pastor lied, and the judge saw right through him. She said, and why do you want her to pay for your attorney? Again, he went to go say how much I made. She was like, I'm not concerned with what she makes. What is the need? So he did all of those things. There was never any need. His goal was to kill, steal, and destroy. And what I know too, spiritual warfare against me. He kept telling people I was mentally ill. I had a mental breakdown. In hindsight, that was his goal. He wanted to break me down. He wanted me to fall apart and have some kind of mental episode. It never happened, but that was his goal. And so, what I did want to talk about what he did. And two reasons. Number one, I made this public. He's still a pastor, so it shows the stronghold over these people in these churches. So, and I showed the divorce paperwork where their pastor. What man of God, what pastor, a woman he'd been married to a year and 4 months, how do you justify to your congregation going after her for spousal support, asking her to pay your attorney after doing all the things that he did that I proved he did? And they still in there letting him preach to them, letting him tell them how they should be living their lives. This is y'all man of God. Something is wrong. He talking about something was mentally wrong with me. And I'm not dissing nobody in this church, but I'm just being honest. Is something mentally wrong with y'all? Y'all not, this is right. And I don't care how many people go to this church. I'm just saying, as a human being, like you said, we don't even think for ourselves. Yeah, the manipulation is real and it's strong that people would. He's invited to preach at churches all over the city. People calling me like, oh, he was preaching that. And I'll be like, I don't care. I don't really want to hear it. But he's asked to preach all over the city. It doesn't make sense. So that's one of the things. But on a more important note, because the church is gonna do what the church is gonna do,
Mhm.
I want women to really be careful. I thought that I was building with someone. I ended up, I don't want to say losing my home because we sold it, but that was something that I really wanted. And so when you think you're building with somebody, I don't want to make anybody paranoid, but be careful. And I would say, I think that women, me personally, I wouldn't legally get married again. That's just me. I wouldn't legally do it.
Mhm.
But I think women should really, especially if you've worked hard, if you're of a certain income, especially depending on what kind of income the man has, women should really consider protecting themselves if they're going to get married. Just
Mhm.
period, point blank. If you're marrying somebody who doesn't have documented income like I did, he's a pastor, so he has all this cash. He went into court saying he only made $3,000 a month, which was not true. But That's what his check stub said, but it wasn't all this, all this cash that he, was unaccounted for. I just think it's a number of things, but for me now, and I know
I want
people,
you to say that though. It's okay. Protect yourself.
yeah.
We should protect ourselves. Women need to protect. So what does protecting yourself look like?
If you're going to be married, getting a prenup. I wouldn't get married, so it's kind of hard for me to say.
Mhm,
But I think prenups are important. I think if you have property prior to getting married, you should protect that property as yours.
mhm,
Whatever you all get together, you got it together. But even like me, I have been considering buying a house before I met him. I wish that I had done it before we married. And I wish that I would have kept my house separate. Um, I think for me, this is one of the things, even though I would not be married legally again, some people probably may feel a way about this, but I know what I make. A man have to make a certain amount of money for me to even date him. I'm that's just how I feel now because there are a lot of men. This is a different generation. I
mhm,
came up in a generation where men were proud to be providers. A
mhm,
man would never take from a woman. We
mhm,
don't live in that time anymore. And
mhm,
I'm just being honest. We don't live in that time anymore. So I want to make sure that you're not coming to date me. They talk about women being gold diggers.
mhm,
Men can be gold diggers too.
mhm,
I work hard. I have a master's degree and I do have a great job. I'm not balling like that, but I make a decent living. And so
mhm,
I'm not going to date anybody who doesn't make a decent living the same as I do or more, preferably more, because I want to make sure you're not coming after me for what you can get from me.
mhm,
So I
mhm,
think women need to be mindful. If you're making a certain amount, I tell my daughter, don't date down. And down is not just in money, but money is a part of it, but morals and values too. And it takes a long time to see if you're aligned. Anybody can pretend to be aligned, and that's
mhm,
what he did. Now I know. Again, I'm gonna go back to the Bible because see, I don't go to church.
mhm,
I have a relationship with God, and I
mhm,
can say that because for my whole life, I had gone to church. This happened and it brought me close to God in a way I had never been. So my relationship is a lot different and it's real. And I don't need to be sitting up in nobody pews with nobody telling me nothing. And I'm not saying that to discourage people from going to church because I attend church online and I do love it. And like I said, there are some pastors that I love, but I
mhm,
know that the Bible says don't believe every spirit,
mhm,
but test the spirit. What are the
mhm,
fruits of the spirit? So when I say don't date down, I do mean money, but I also mean values, character,
mhm,
morals, and those things too.
mhm,
The fruits as well. So I think that women should just be careful. I think we need to slow down and we need to listen and we need to observe. And if we're gonna be married, we need to be smart. And if we have anything, we need to keep it separate and we need to put some things in place to make sure that if the relationship or marriage doesn't work, you leave with what you came with.
mhm. Awesome. And not afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
It's the other
Yeah.
one. Not afraid to ask questions. And if you don't get a good check, a good feeling, or good sense of what's going on or what's being said, don't ignore. Trust yourself, and trust the God in you. Because everybody got a problem
Right.
these days with saying trust self. Well, trust the God in you. When you
Right.
get that inkling and your discernment is your tinkle tankles or your discernment is going off, pay attention to that. Yeah, awesome. Awesome, awesome. But thank you for sharing. I think that was powerful. I think one of the things that we had talked about even when we were with other ladies was definitely um, just really doing the self-care, the work for self, knowing who you are,
Mhm.
um, and developing your relationship with God. I don't, who I'm not here to tell you who you need to worship. I can tell you who I worship now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I will definitely do that. I can tell you that you have to have a spiritual foundation. You got to have
Mhm.
something to sustain you, and to keep you and to guide you. And it's difficult. Marriage is it's a death.
Yeah.
Even if it's a toxic situation, an abusive situation, there is a grieving process. How did you
Mhm.
get through the grieving process?
Ooh, and yeah, I mean, we said it. I said it before, but I'll say it again. I got through that process because I was vocal about it. I think when you suffer in silence, it's so much more painful. I think that that makes it so much more difficult. I talked about it. Every
Yeah,
time I talked about it, I feel like the load got lighter. It healed me, and it I had a community. I had a community that wrapped their arms around me and loved on me and prayed for me, and I never felt alone. That was well, I won't say number one, I won't put it in order, but I talked about it and I had a great support system. And I really, really, that is when I got in my word like never before. And I let the Holy Spirit comfort me. I let the word of God comfort me and speak to me. I stood on the promises of God. I cast my cares on him because he cared for me, and my our marriage counselor, she would always say to me, all things work together for good. And she was like, even when it doesn't feel like it. And I'm like, Lord, I don't see how this is working for my good. But I do now. And so I stood on the word, and I got my community. And that was really how I got through it, to be honest.
okay. Well, I want to thank you again. You have a book coming out at the end of the year.
Yeah, so what's funny is because I was sharing my story, I actually met a lot of people, and people really did appreciate me being transparent because it's hard. Like, nobody really wants to put something like that out there. But when I did, a lot of women reached out to me and shared their stories and thanked me and supported me. And so because I had shared, there was another young woman who said, I'm writing a book and I'm looking for 10 women that want to share their stories. And somebody tagged me. And I was like, should I do this? And I reached out, I replied, and we ended up talking offline. I shared my story, and she's like, I want you in this book. And so there's, I believe, 10 of us. The book is called I Survived My Narc, and we're sharing our stories about surviving a relationship with a narcissist. And so that will be out, I believe, December 1st. But I'm also writing my own book. Since it's 10 women, it's a very short piece of my story. And even though I'm sharing here, like I said, there are so many other things that happened. I would be here all day. So this is a portion of it. In that book, I Survived My Narc, I share a portion of it. And then I'm actually writing my own book, which I hope will follow just a couple months after that one. So hopefully the first quarter of 2025, I'll be sharing my full story in written
Awesome.
form.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome, awesome, awesome. And you can find her on social media. Your handle.
Khalilah Lachey, yeah, on everything, on Instagram and TikTok. I don't post a lot on TikTok, but Instagram mostly Khalilah Lachey, and Facebook Khalilah Anderson.
Okay,
And
I'm going to
yeah,
put
I
that
post
in
a
here.
story there, like you said, nosy bystander for the TikToks and the YouTube.
How do you spell Lachey?
Lashay.
Okay, and this is on all social media, so you'll be able to know when she is going, her book drops and other things that she will be doing in the community, online. And did I do it right? On all
Yeah,
social
it's
media?
together. It's one. It's no
Oh,
space.
okay, so it's one word,
Khalilah
Khalilah Lachey,
Lachey.
one word. That's on
Mhm.
Facebook and Instagram. And again, we're going to have her information up, the receipts and some things up in our
Mhm.
Patreon. And she's a part of a Patreon. So if you want to leave her a question on the post, you're welcome to do that. I want to say thank you again. And with our audience, and I pray that someone heard something. We had a couple of people to stay with us the whole time. They actually just, I see that they just, a couple of few people stayed with us the whole time. They kind of, they jumped off. But one last thing that you would say to a woman right now that may be looking, listening to you and saying, you know what, this is my life. It may be a first lady, a pastor's wife. This is what I'm walking through. This is my life. And she feels stuck and unable to make a move. What would you say to her right now?
I would say, trust God, trust yourself. I would say you're worthy and you would be so much better. Like, walking in peace and freedom. I am so at peace. Abuse is it's miserable. And a lot of times, especially in church, people are staying because of what other people think or what other people are going to say. This is your life. You only have one life. And I don't advocate for a divorce, but I do advocate for peace and freedom. I have a peace that I have not had in a long time. When people come in my house, they feel the peace. They feel the peace. We are God's daughters, and he did not create us to be trapped in miserable marriages in bondage. It's peace on the other side, and it's
Yeah.
a freedom and a joy that is unexplainable. And I think the fear is what keeps us in it. We got to get out of fear, and we have to trust God.
Yes.
That's what I would say. It's worth
Awesome.
it.
Yes, it is worth it. Your freedom, your peace, your health, your healthy mind, spirit, and God has a purpose for you. He has a
And you can't
purpose.
fix them.
You
A lot
cannot.
of people that's staying and praying. This is the last thing I'll say because we're taught that you cannot fix, pray. I mean, like, and I'm not saying what God can't do, but when you have prayed and prayed and prayed, you have your answer. Get that freedom. Get that freedom. Okay, is
We
nothing
all
like.
have, and we all have free will. Even God,
Mhm.
Jesus Christ, God is a gentleman. He doesn't force
Yeah.
himself on you. You know what I mean? He doesn't make you do anything. He gives you an
Mhm.
option. Do this, to do the other. Now things can get so tough where you feel like you don't have an option, but he gives you have an option. And so I agree with you totally that you have a choice. And the main thing is to know that Jesus Christ died on the cross for you. He didn't tell you you had to turn around and go die on the cross for yourself. That's
Right.
all I got to say about it.
Right. Right. Right.
All right, lady. Thank you so much again.
Thank
Thank you so much for coming
you.
and spending time with us and with the audience. And you have a wonderful one. I wish you nothing but the best of the best. I
Thank
can't wait.
you.
We met at a divorce conference. That's how we
We
connected.
did.
And so, and
We
so I can't
did.
wait to see how things move forward for you and for I. And thank you so much. God
Same.
bless you. Enjoy
God
the rest
bless
of your
you.
evening and the weekend. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have it. You have it. That was Khalilah Anderson sharing you the journey of her marriage, her divorce, and getting to the other side of it. And I pray you got something out of her testimony. You can see that this is not just about sharing a story and talking about the details of the story without having an outcome. So God bless you, and we look forward to talking to you the next time. Thank you.